Hello, I'm Manika, and this is my assessment presentation for the linguistic expressions of identity and culture in Gwendolyn Brooks' poems. Gwendolyn Brooks was born in Kansas in 1917 and moved to Chicago during the Great Migration. Part of her identity is that she is an African American woman. As a child, her family's financial situation was not the best as they lived on the south side of Chicago. Her father was a janitor whose dream was to become a doctor but could not fulfill his dream because of insufficient funds. Her mother was a school teacher. Both of her parents valued education and encouraged her to do good in school. Her skill set was mainly based in the academic section, with no social or athletic skills. Because of this, she was looked down upon by members of her own race, as well as for not having light skin or good grade hair. This rejection scarred her and turned herself to writing a lot. In 1950, she was the first African American person to receive the Pulitzer Prize. In this presentation, I will explore and analyze how identity and cultures are expressed through the sophisticated language of poetry. I will do this by looking at two of Gwendolyn Brooks' poems. We Real Cool, highlighting how environmental and societal identity was communicated through her poetry, and The Children of the Poor, which translates emotional and religious identity through the linguistics in her poem. The poem We Real Cool highlights how Gwendolyn Brooks communicates her environmental and societal identity. This poem she wrote was about a group of children she saw while walking by, and they were playing pool. Firstly, I would like to talk about how she uses environmental influences in this poem. The message in the first half of the poem shows us how common it is for young children like these to skip school for activities like drinking alcohol and goofing around. The fact that this takes place in the south side of Chicago might explain how easy it was for the children at school and how they can stay out late at night without their parents worrying about where they are. The last line of the poem highlights how Gwendolyn Brooks relates performing juvenile delinquency to premature death. Secondly, the author uses multiple versions of slang and jargon that we as IB students in Thailand might be oblivious to. In the first line of the second half of the poem, she writes, Sing Sin. This means how being a juvenile delinquent is celebrated instead of being disregarded and shut down by their own peers. Thin Gin refers to how their financial situation requires them to water down alcoholic drinks in order to distribute them evenly amongst themselves. Lastly, Jazz June is slang for saying freedom, improvisation, and time off school. The poet also uses self-inclusion by using the word we after every phrase to show the relationship between her identity as an African American and of the juvenile delinquent having this in common with her. All of these slangs are considered as jargon because of how only certain communities might be able to decipher these words and how these are not used globally in every community. The second poem that I believe has effectively communicated several parts of Gwendolyn Brooks' identity through linguistics is The Children of the Poor, featuring emotional and religious identities. Gwendolyn Brooks' personal emotional identity is how she's a female who has had several abortions. She has even written a poem called The Mother about how sorry she is and how much she misses her children who she has aborted. This is a component which has affected her sense of empathy and the love she feels for children who are abandoned by their parents or have lost their fathers in World War II. She shows this through her language by using correlating adjectives and descriptive language. An example of this is how she uses words such as softness, my little halves, and purely, as well as what shall I give my children? These words show her idealect of having a strong connection with lost children who are in danger, and ones who are not loved and nurtured. Another important part is how religious identity plays a huge part in this poem. Almost every line in this poem is related to Christian religion. This can be interpreted by the audience by picking out several non colloquial dialogue as Christians do in Christian sociolect. Some examples are need not, unridiculous, in conditions, nor grief nor love shall, angelic, no devil to pray, and revise the Psalms. All of this jargon is used in communities where there are Christian people. Towards the end, the message Brooks is trying to convey is completely contradictory to the lines in the first stanza. At first, she is showing the struggles and the fragility of the abandoned children, but in the third stanza, she shows the ways to overcome those struggles by praying and having faith in God. This is how she used writing as a safe space for her societal rejection. Even though Gwendolyn Brooks grew up in a harsh environment, she persevered through by putting all of her acrimony and regret into doing what she loved the most, writing. All of her hard work and talent can be seen in her poems, as well as her incredible use of identity in slang and jargon. Lastly, her overall use of poetry to show the potential linguistics has to express identity and culture is unique. Thank you.